Hey everyone, this is Ash for iPoker VIP Coaching and welcome to the second part of PLO 2K12. So in the first part we had a look on the fundamentals and the general game plan on how to beat small stakes PLO. I'm kind of sure that the majority of winning regulars on these limits are familiar with these concepts, and that's why this time I want to drift a bit away from the common knowledge. I will try to get a bit more creative and we will just elevate our game to the next level. And to reach this, we have to take a look at alternative lines. Most of the lines I've shown you, I have seen other people doing it and I just had troubles with it, and that's why I thought it would be good to incorporate into my own game. This will lead a bit to an unbalanced game plan or exploitable, but don't worry, we won't be super exploitable, something that people will just take our money. I think it's just important to open up your game a little bit to take other plus EV spots that normally you wouldn't get. And the third thing I want to talk about is PLO is changing in the last years. More and more people are playing it, and I would just try to predict the trends in 2012 for PLO small stakes, which is PLO 50 to PLO 200. So let's get it started, and I hope you like the hands that I picked. As always, we want to start it nice and easy. That's why I picked a very quick hand for hand number one. I'm playing PLO 100. 5 people are on the table, but we are just playing three-handed. So I have the button here, and with the button, I just want to open 100% of my range, even if I have a very trashy hand like King Jack 8-3 single suited and not really connected. So I open up 3 times the big blind, as always. That's my default, and the small blind 3-bets it. I know the small blind kind of good. I already played almost 3k hands with him, and one of his leaks is that he's just too laggy. He's just 3-betting too much. He's 3-betting 14%, and he's not really aware of position at all. So he just likes to 3-bet a lot, but I'm kind of aware of his range. So the big blind calls in, and in position I just want to see a flop and make my decision from there, because I can put a lot of pressure from the button. So it comes 6-5-5. Kind of okay flop for me. I have a jack high flush draw, and the small blind bets out half the pot, which is the default continuation betting size of most of the regular on these limits. If the board is paired, most just bet between 1/2 and 2/3 of the pot, so like 15 or 20. The big blind decides to fold, and now I have a decision to make. I have a jack high flush draw. So what are my options? I could fold, of course, but I think since he has a very, very wide range and c-bets here a lot, that's out of the question. He's definitely c-betting here his whole range, like starting at 10s plus and all his missed rundowns, high card rundowns and low card rundowns. I could call. Once I call, I'm just telling him I either have a flush draw, I overpair myself like queens, where I not feel so comfortable with, or I'm already half the boat like 6s or 6-5. But yeah, so I have a very, very capped value range here, I guess. I could shove it for fold equity. That's definitely an option. But I think he will just, I think it's just too strong. If I would really have a full house here, I wouldn't pot it. And if I have just most likely when I have a 5. So I decided to make the typical fish move, which we all have seen. So I just decided to min raise it. Min raising, I think in this scenario is very, very strong, because against him, my game plan is to attack a lot of flops, because he's just 3-betting too much, and I just want to choose the smallest bet size to have the same fold equity, because by min raising, I'm not telling him he has to pay $18 more to see the turn card. I'm also telling him basically, since I'm an aggressive player, we're playing for stacks. If you're playing Hold'em, someone called this the leverage concept. So basically, by min raising, it just means you're calling 18 now, but we're playing for stacks here. And most of the time, it has the same fold equity as potting in this case. If I would pot here, I would raise to 3 times 45, $75, which is just way too much. I'm also telling him that we're playing for stacks, but I can't just raise it to 75 or to 50 every time I'm trying to steal a pot from my opponent. That's why I went with the classic fish min raise, which when fish do it, it's just very, very nut heavy. But on a regular, it just keeps you guessing. That's why position is so important. And fortunately, the small blind just folded. Okay, so in hand number one, I got 3-bet from the small blind, who is a very laggy player and whose league is 3-betting too much out of position. I just want to take advantage of it by calling almost any 4 cards in position and taking down a lot of pots on the flop. In this case, the flop came kind of nice. It came 6-6-5. I had a flush draw, but this was basically unimportant because the board was already a lockdown board. A lockdown board is what we call in pot limit Omaha a board where very strong nuts are already out, and it's just very hard to improve in general. If I have here already the full house on the 6-6-5 board, it's not relevant if someone improves to a flush or to a straight, because there are just too many reverse implied odds. So on this board, it's not necessary to raise big. I don't have to pot here, and I also don't want to pot all the time on these boards, because my general game plan is still that I want to attack a lot of flops against these particular players. So I decided to make the super fish move. I just min raised here to create fold equity, the same fold equity like potting in the first place. Why does this work? In No Limit Hold'em, this is called leverage concept, which is the threat of future bets, which just means if you have an aggressive image and you played a lot against this player, he probably knows it. He already knows that you're probably jamming every turn card, regardless if the flush comes down or a straight peels off or some high card like a queen. You are betting or potting 100% of all turn cards, which means he betted 15 into 30, and I made a min raise, or a slight min raise. I made it 33, and he actually just has to call $18 to see the turn. But he's actually not, or he knows that he's not only calling 18, he's playing for stacks, because once he calls the $18 here, I'm potting the turn. So he's making a $90 call, basically. If you're not an aggressive player, this play probably won't work for you. But our goal is to be a very aggressive player in position. That's why you want to achieve a very aggressive image, and the leverage concept or min raising on lockdown boards will just work very good for you. So my resolution from this hand is I will use leverage more on lockdown boards to create fold equity. Okay, so hand number 2, we're playing 3-handed again. Okay, so hand number 2, we're playing 3-handed again. I have a okay hand, but I'm on the button, so it's good enough to raise. I make it 3 times the big blind like always. The small blind calls in. He's a very loose player. He plays 88% of his hands, so he can barely have everything here. The big blind, he's a good regular. He plays more on the loose side. He plays 34-21. He likes to see a lot of flops. That's why he has a bigger gap between preflop raise and VPIP, and he probably thinks he has a big edge post flop and will attack many boards. Okay, so I get one of the best flops here. I have top 2 pair and the flush draw. And I think they will check to me most of the time, and I should just bet here. Small blind checks, big blind check should be an easy continuation bet, but unfortunately I make here a very big mistake. I really don't know why. Probably I had a bigger decision on another table and maybe timed out or misread my hand kind of much. And I check here behind. Yeah, so clearly mistake, but I would try to make the best out of it. Small blind checks again, and now the big blind donks into me. My perceived range is very, very weak here. No, I probably have here something like the 9 high flush draw or some ace high, ace high with 5-6 maybe. I should be betting most of my value hands and most of my pure air on the flop just to take it down, but since I checked it behind, he perceives me probably as very, very weak. And I want to continue giving him this impression because, like I mentioned before, he likes to see a lot of flops and he likes to attack a lot. And I think if he donks out here, he has at least some showdown value like 2 pair, maybe 7-3 somehow, or 7-3, 4-5, or a combo draw like 5-6-7 with a spade draw himself. And if it blanks out, he will definitely bet those hands again. I could also imagine he has something like ace queen 4-5 maybe. So all these hands, all his combo draws and pure airs, I think he will just bet again on the river. That's why I want to call here. I would call here also if I would just have 7 deuce and just call him down pretty light. I don't see any value in raising here because although he won't give me a lot of credit, there's not so many strong hands that he can have to continue with. I block all the queen sets, I block the 7 sets, and I have a deuce now as well. So all he can have is a set of 3s, most likely, and I would be crushed against this range. So I call it here, and the small blind gives it up. So on the river I fill up. So it's a very interesting card because he should be betting all his range here now. Like I mentioned, all his gut shots, all his combo draws like 5-6 with a spade draw. He should be betting now. And if he has a queen like ace queen, he should be betting as well, of course. But most likely he has a busted draw himself. So he's betting 14 into 21, a kind of standard bet. I would assume that if he is strong, he would probably go for a bigger bet. I'm not sure if he's always balanced in these spots. So I have a lot of options now. Calling is of course too weak because I would like to extract some value from my hands. I could pot it here, or I could just raise it here. I have to admit that my default on the river is most of the time just potting to be very, very polarized. Potting would be a raise to 30, 42, around 60, 65. If I raise here 65, he will have a very, very big decision. But basically, I want to trick him into calling. That's why I decided to not polarize my hand, but to just raise it small. I raised it smaller to 44 and still I have 47 behind. The reason for this is I want him to call with ace queen, for example. I want him to call with ace queen. If I polarize myself, or king queen, or any queen, for example, if I make a polarized bet, I will put a lot of pressure on him. It's probably unlikely that I have a hand, but he just has a 24, went to showdown, and most of the players just don't hero call often enough. If he has something like a pair of aces or a weird played pair of kings or jacks, he might be calling now as well. But if he's polarized, he's not snap calling me in these spots. So that's why I went with the smaller raise size to just extract a lot of value against most of the range. Plus, he can still have the combo draws, and now he can give himself some fold equity since there's still 50 big blind left to play. And he does repop it, of course, a snap call, and yeah, I don't know what he shows here now, but I'm probably beating everything of his shoving range. So in this case, he had the combo draw, like I assumed, but he could value shove here ace queen as well sometimes, though he should just be calling. So worked out good for me. So let's recap hand number 2 real quick. It started off with a mistake on the flop by not continuation betting. I should definitely continuation bet top 2 pair with the flush draw here for value. I didn't do so. The mistake is not super big because the pot was still small. I can't expect to get 3 streets of value, but still it's a mistake. By checking behind, I have a very weak perceived range, so in my opponent's eyes, the best hand that I can have here is sometimes bottom 2 pair, but most likely my best hand is here, like an 8 high flush draw or something like this, a 9 high flush draw, a very, very weak flush draw, which I also had to go with my hand, but I was way stronger, as we already know. Since I had a very weak perceived range, the play in the big blind donked into me. As I already said, he's a very aggressive player, although the stats don't really reflect it, but he plays very, very good post-flop, can hand read very good, and he's very selective aggressive. And once you have a lock on the board, it sounds a bit confusing because I had just 3 pair and a flush draw, and not a set or something very, very strong to have the board crushed. But once we have a lock on the board against such a aggressive player, we want them to stay aggressive. We want them to barrel again on the river, and most of the times we just have to call light on most rivers. So if we have top 2 pair or just random 2 pair against him, he will bet probably 100% of the rivers, and you should be calling here most of the time. Queen is of course the worst hand, the worst card that could come for you if you have bottom 2 pair or middle 2 pair in this situation. So one of the few cards where you probably have to fold. And since we know he's an aggressive player, we don't want to re-raise here the pot to give him a very, very big decision, which is just calling or folding, because they will tend to fold most of the time, and since they are just aggressive but not stupid, they won't just pay off with random trips or smaller full houses here. In these situations, we want to be raising smaller against aggressive players, because they could be leveling themselves into calling you lighter. The mistake that they make by calling is not as big as anymore, because we just raised him like 30 big blind more and not 60 big blind, so he still makes a mistake here, but in his eyes probably not as big. And we can also induce him to make a re-raise on the river. This time just worked very good because it was very player dependent. It's not recommended against everyone, but if you have an aggressive player, you should just be raising smaller. So my resolution for this hand is I will use smaller raise sizes to extract more value and induce bluffs. In this hand, I want to talk about the concept which is not used quite enough by most people, in my opinion. The concept is called the pivot card. It enables you to play your hands better in position. You will keep your opponents guessing more, and thus they will make more mistakes, and you will just make more money in the long run. The circumstances are probably not the best in this scenario, but I couldn't find a better hand now to illustrate the concept properly, but I think it's still fine to get my point across. So let's start it. A normal PLO 50 table 6 max this time. I have 200 big blinds, and I will be playing against a small blind in position. For the concept itself, it would just be way better if he had 200 big blind itself, but it's still fine. So the cut of limps and a standard isolation with my beautiful hand. I have King Jack 10-9 double suited, so we just have one gap at the top, so it's an almost perfect hand, especially on the button. I get 3-bet here by the small blind. He has just 4.3% 3-bet, so I will put him on aces most of the time here. The cutoff folds and a very standard call in position against this player, since we know and are very aware of his range. So once we take a look at the flop, we basically flop nothing. This is what we think, but the queen is our pivot card. It's called the pivot card because it fills up your wrap. It's the missing link to your wrap. So I mentioned before, we have a one gap at the top. So if we have the queen now, we're actually playing king, queen, jack 10-9, because it gives us additional straight draw outs on the turn. With our additional backdoor draws, with our backdoor draws. So if I look at this board, normally most people think, okay, I have two backdoor draws, like the club draw and the spade draw, but I don't have a pair to go with it, so I should be probably just folding because it's probably not worth to just call with my backdoor draws. In this case, we also hit our pivot card, which makes our hand significantly stronger, especially if one of the many backdoor draws hits the river. So it gives us enough reason to call. So we see a standard continuation bet from the small blind. I'm still assuming he has aces or kings, but sometimes he can also have something like ace, king, queen, jack, or something like this. But let's just say he has aces or kings. So on the turn, I hit a very good card. As you can see right now, I have two open-ended straight draws and some gutters as well to go with my hand. If it would come clubs or spades, I would even have a flush draw to go with it, which is just very strong. Right now, I'm just calling by equity. He will just get it in now, most likely, and I will just call by equity. If we play deeper now, let's say he has 200 big blinds, and he sees that I'm calling him on a very dry board. His alarm bells should ring. If he has aces now, he shouldn't feel so comfortable by once he gets raised. If I just had a lonely queen, I would have top two pair now. I could have any set. So we could apply a lot of pressure on this player. Let's say he bets 30. We still could make a decent sized raise here, and he would have to take a second look at his hands. Of course, the deeper you are, the more this concept applies, but as we can see, he gets it in. We hit our straight on the river, but it's not important. And he had a hand like ace, queen, 10-8. If you show the equities now, on the turn, we actually have 30% equity, 38% equity, and with his shove, we just need 30% equity. So we're making a kind of plus EV call here. And on the flop as well, as you can see, we still have 28% equity on the flop, where we, on the first look, don't hit anything at all. So remember, next time, don't just check your obvious backdoor draws. Also, look if you hit one of your pivot cards, and this will give you enough reasons to continue with the hand, and most of the time just apply pressure on the turn. It can widen your range. You can widen your float range like this. And as you can see, it's just highly profitable. So let's talk about this again real quick. What is the pivot card? The pivot card fills up your one-gapped wraps. As you could see, I had King Jack 10-9. The queen came on the flop, and the queen filled up my gap at the top. On On first view at this flop, we just thought we have two backdoor draws, which is also very good, but the pivot card gave us more not so obvious backdoor draws. Every king, every jack, every 10, every 9 gave us additional straight draws, and this is just very deceptive for our opponent. He might just think we got lucky here, but as you could see in the EV, but as you could see in the equities, we had 28% on the flop by hitting just nothing. This can also give you more reasons to call if you have a likely dominated flush draw. Like let's say you have a small wrap and you flop a flush draw, but also your pivot card. This gives you a lot of backdoor draws so that you can continue way lighter on the flop on the turn. Let's say like this. By playing more pivot cards, you balance your floats automatically. You are harder to play probably. I mean, if you stay passive, then not. But since we are approaching a very aggressive game in position and we want to be floating a lot, we're gonna give our opponents a lot of headaches. And especially in deep games, the deception makes it just extremely helpful. You will be able to continue the hand. Imagine you're playing deep. You spike your pivot card on the turn like we made it now. It's kind of unlikely that you made a straight by the river, or let's say he just had a one pair hand like aces. He can't value bet his hand anymore. He might just check to you and you can just pot here since you just played your position perfectly. So my resolution for the pivot card and for 2012 is I will apply even more pressure by using the pivot card correctly. In hand number 4, we're going to have a look at 3-bet pots out of position with the kind of marginal hand. At the same time, I also want to talk about the current state of pot limit Omaha in small stakes regarding 3-bet pots. People are widening their 3-bet range kind of much nowadays. It's not only like 2 years ago that regulars just were 3-betting aces, kings, and the super connected wraps. People are aware more of position and that the pressure that they can apply. But I still see my students making bad adaptations and just giving too much credit. And we want to have a look at these specific spots. So I got dealt under the gun ace king 6-5. I decided to open it here. The hand itself is not very good. It's not connected or just semi-connected, but it's basically two pot limit hold'em suited connectors, and we should just avoid them under the gun. The reason why I raised them is that my flush draws are still very high. If I would have ace king of hearts and 6-5 of spades, which is a very big difference, I would just tend to muck it. So it gets folded around to the cutoff, who is a taggish regular. We have quite an aggressive history with each other, and he's probably 3-betting me here. I would assume with a tighter range, since I raised under the gun, he could definitely have aces, kings, very good queens, rundowns, a lot of double pair hands also as well. And it gets folded around. The action is on me. We are a bit deeper, so I decided to call, although I will have a very bad time, most likely, but still, I feel like for 155 big blinds, there is still some room to play. So I flopped the king high flush draw. I have a lot of options now. I could lead into him, which I would do here probably 50% of the time, because I think by leading, you put him into a very awkward spot. He's probably expecting that you check to him, that he continuation bets, and then he goes from there. So we already take a lot of momentum away from him. The reason why I didn't lead here into him, because I didn't want to get raised. If I'm leading into someone, I'm preferring to have a bit stronger hand, like which I can call a raise with like a flush draw with at least a pair, or flush draw with some gut shot, flush draw with an open-ended straight draw, and so on. Check raising, my hand is probably too weak. I'm just bloating the pot out of position, and I still could be dominated by ace high flush draw here once we get it in. So I decided to check call it here, don't bloat the pot, and see a turn and evaluate from there. So I check, and as expected, he's continuation betting here, 16 into 22, a kind of standard continuation bet size in 3-bet spots. So I just called. Once I called, my range is probably very low flush draws with no combo. Open-ended straight draws, maybe wraps without a flush draw. 2 pair, which I peel once. So very weak in his eyes, but mostly I will have a drawing hand. I will never be extremely strong here, and yeah, he can just barrel me off my hand. I pick up the ace now, which is a very good card, and most people think it's a very bad card because it hits his range very, very strong. The thing is, we have an ace now, we have top pair, top kicker. It's definitely enough to call another street and reevaluate again. We could check raise here, just to end the hand. I think it's a fine play, but I really don't want to isolate myself against a set or ace jack or ace 8. So I think calling another street if he bets is good. Another advantage of checking is that he could check behind, which is also fine for us because we then just get to showdown cheaper. So I check. He doesn't do me the favor of checking behind. As I said before, he's an aggressive player. He's aware of position, and he will apply as much pressure as he can, especially once the ace falls. So I check call here again. So the 3 is in his eyes a very good card because perceived I have a lot of very, very marginal hands here. I could have a very strong rep, which I didn't want it to raise because of the flush draw, like queen 9, 10, 7, queen 9, 10, king, something like this. Or I had 9, 10 with a spade draw, which I just have to call 2 times and see a river. So he should definitely be betting the majority of his range. He should be the only hand he's probably checking behind sometimes because he might think he has showdown value is kings or maybe queens, but it's probably just more plus EV for him to bet the majority of his range because I'm just too draw heavy and he could make me fold here. I check to him. I'm fine with the check behind. I don't think I can value bet myself here because I'm really not representing the 3, and if he has aces full, he can just raise me easily. I don't think that he would call me with ace king if I bet the 3 out or with a pair of kings. He would just probably have an easy muck. So the best play here is to check, expecting him to fire the majority of his range and of course calling. And we check, he's aggressive, he bets again, and we just stick in our stack. Yeah, in this case I was just good, but that's not so important for the hand itself. As you all saw, the hand ran out pretty good for us. Good hand readers who are watching right now probably think this is a very easy snap call down or snap call on the river, and I agree. Unfortunately, I still see a lot of my students making the mistake by just check folding the river or making something funky on the river, and in the end not extracting the most value because they're just still too scared of too tight 3-betting ranges. The 3-bet dynamics get more and more aggressive these days. It's like back then in No Limit Hold'em, people started 3-betting, they continuation betted, and they got just too much credit and everyone folded. You know that these days are over, and these days are over now also in pot limit Omaha. So we just have to start to accept that the ranges are wider than 1 or 2, 3 years ago. You don't only see aces by the showdown, not only see kings, and especially if they have good bluff cards, most of the regulars nowadays are just willing to stack off and to bluff off their chips. There are some adaptations that you can make. You can just fold out of position, especially with a hand like me and deeper. I just had the feeling that I adapt way better to him than he to me. That's why I called. I called him down light, so this was my adaptation. And you can also 4-bet light out of position. Just notice that 4-betting light has more variance than calling down light, and folding out of position, of course, has the least variance. It's important for me that you don't adapt by spewing post-flop. I see a lot of my students just getting very annoyed by getting 3-bet constantly, and especially if it happened the second or third time, they just see their king high flush draw and they're like, okay, I'm just gonna check jam here or check raise the flop because he's just continuation betting too often. Yeah, it is an adaptation, but you will get lots of folds in most cases, but I think it's not the most plus EV line, because once you get it in with this specific hand, you just lose too much in the long run. So just notice that most have to reevaluate their game in 3-bet pots, and me myself also. That's why I will start to adapt correctly to the aggressive 3-betters in my game. In our last hand, in hand number 5, I want to show you a possible adaptation to the aggressive and light 3-bets in today's pot limit Omaha games. I'm currently just calculating most of the EVs, so I don't know what the EV of 4-betting light and getting it in on almost any flop is right now. I just know that the play itself is just very, very profitable. So I'm sorry that I can't prove it yet. This is Pilo 2K12 part number 2, where I said I would try to make predictions on today's games and what we can expect in 2012. So this is one of my theories. What I did now is I took out like around 10 hands, which I filled it out in Hold'em Manager. I picked all hands which I 4-betted, which were not aces or kings. And as you will see, I really randomly picked the first 10 hands or something, which I saw, which Poker Tracker gave me out. And we will see that this play is just highly profitable, regardless of flopping good or flopping bad or whatsoever. So let's just have a real quick look at it. I get dealt a very, very strong hand, Queen Jack 10-9. I get 3-bet from aggressive player from the small blind. And since we have position, we could just call down here and see a flop. But basically, our hand is so strong that it will never be significantly behind if we get it in pre-flop. You have to imagine it like playing ace-king suited in no limit hold'em or something. I decided to 4-bet here, and I know that I represent a very narrow range here. I have aces here most of the times, or kings, if you have an aggressive dynamic, but most of the people will put me on aces. Once he shoves, I know that he has aces, but since I'm kind of committed to the pot, I just need 33% to call, but basically it's a coin flip or something like 45-55 in the opponent's favor if he has aces. If I just get called, I at least know that he doesn't have aces, so he could have kings, queens, any 4 cards basically that he decided to 3-bet, like double suited crap, the same rundown like me, and so on and so on. He calls here. I flop extremely strong. I flop a flush draw plus a top pair, a gutter. He checks to me. I pot it here, like I said it before. I'm gonna pot every flop, and he quickly folds. So we just go through the hands now. They all follow the same concept basically, and as you will see, they will have almost equal results. So I open up again with my double pair. I get 3-bet from the button, which is not the pot size 3-bet, which just tells me he's kind of weak. So I decided to overrepresent my hand. He just calls in the flop. Again, I flop very good. I have a gutter at least. It should hit his range actually kind of good. I c-bet the pot and he decides to fold. Nothing special. Ace, king, queen, 8 under the gun. Again, I get 3-bet kind of small. I decide to 4-bet here, straight for value, to build the pot and to make my decisions easier. We are heads up now. And I can just c-bet this flop very lightly. I just see right now this probably doesn't fit the concept since we are deeper than 100 big blinds, so please just ignore it. But result, again, same. 10, 10, 9. Okay, this is a heads up pot. I 4-bet it. C-bet, fold. Sorry that I should have filtered, but I think it was important. It is important to me that you should just see the move itself is just highly profitable. So I get min 3-bet again. I thought it's a good opportunity to squeeze. Wow, I flopped the nuts, but I don't get out pot here, which is probably just wrong since my range is perceived as very ace heavy, so I shouldn't be potting here. Next hand, 10, 9, 8, 6, very strong. This time I get 3-bet the pot. It gets called again. I decided to jam it here. Once someone cold calls with 3-bet, he either has a wrap, which he wants to see the flop with, or he's just very bad like this guy, or he has something like kings and queens where he's trying to flop a set but doesn't want to invest more by raising. If we can fold out kings and queens with 4-betting light, this is a huge win in equity for us. Again, here I flop very good. I stick in the rest of my stack, or I get called this time, and yeah, we just see how the board runs out, and I could win it. I had 63% on the flop. I would need even less, as you can see. Same situation again. I get 3-bet by a regular here. I 4-bet him. He calls in, bet the flop, and he's gone. Especially against regulars, if you 4-bet him pre-flop when he's in position, he's just folding. You would be surprised how much they are folding in these spots, because they put you on aces. They know that they have to fold kings. They either ship it in now, or they just fold it kings, queens, something like this. Bad double suited hands, hands that include an ace, like my hand, like ace, queen, jack, 9 double suited or single suited. They might decide just to fold it because they're not flopping often enough. Here a double suited hand, get min raised again. I 4-bet the ace, the ultimate scare card. He folds. I decided to just bet half since it wasn't necessary to bet more. And here again, same situation. I get to fold out a regular. I have 1.8 k hands around against him. He is definitely able to 3-bet here everything which includes an ace, similar to my hand, like ace, queen, jack, 10. No, sorry, not as strong as this, like ace, queen, 10, 9, something like this, ace, queen, 5, 6, a pair of kings, a pair of queens, everything which is not aces but doesn't perform good against aces in a 4-bet pot. I isolate myself against the fish. Flop a top pair, nothing that I can do. I just stick it in, I get called, and okay, I lose this pot. So I had, on the flop, I had 40% equity, which is perfectly fine. I don't even need more. And this is the first hand that I lost by 4-betting non-aces hands after I filtered. So I played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hands basically. So not 10, sorry, 9. Probably could filter more, but I think you get the point. I'm sorry about the presentation of this concept. I just didn't know better at this point. I don't have any calculations to prove that this concept is working, as I said before. I can just tell you by experience and by this really quick filter through my database that this concept is working. It shows a lot of immediate profit for me and also for other regulars, I guess, who I've been seeing doing it. It's probably equal to No Limit Hold'em back then, where you could just 4-bet light and it was just a new 3-bet light and it just showed immediate profit in the first few months because just people adapted wrong. By folding out better hands, we gain a very significant equity boost. I think this is kind of logical, but just imagine that people really exactly put you on aces and they are able to fold kings, they are able to fold queens. It's easier for them if they start to, when they're 3-betting light with, let's say, ace 10, 9, 8 single suited. It's a very easy fold for them because they just know that you will shove any flop and they're just playing by equities. Given this, they will make big mistakes by folding too many flops. If an ace or a king peels off, they will instantly fold. If they then don't connect at all, they will instantly fold. And sometimes you will also just hit and can trick them in somehow. If we get 5-bet, if they have a real hand like aces or kings, or let's say aces only, we still have good equity against these hands. It's not like a No Limit Hold'em where we 4-bet, bluff 7-8 suited and have okay equity against aces. Here we really have 40-45% against a real strong hand, which is basically a coin flip in the long run. One downside is that we bump up the variance. Regulars will see very fast what you are doing. If you are in a bad stretch where you don't hit any cards, or where they just caught a piece of the flop, we're just bumping up the variance. But I think in the long run, the whole play itself, if you play it consistently under good circumstances, will just show immediate profit. And there's still lots of money to be made. So my personal resolution in this case is I will dive more into the concept of 4-betting light and thus ship more money. So here we are right at the end. I hope you enjoyed my new video series, PLO 2K12, my personal preview on the year 2012. I made some predictions, I made some reviews of good and bad plays from last year. If you have any questions, just leave me a comment in the comment section below. I will try to answer all your questions as soon as possible. Also, I will probably write a blog post on this where I will just post all my resolutions from this video series. So if you found one resolution which you want to use yourself, just follow me on my blog. And as always, I hope you could learn something. See you at the PLO tables. Keep crushing hard. And see you next time. This is Ash for iPoker VIP coaching, and good luck to everyone.